It's 4:30, let's call this meeting to order. The Operations Committee, first thing is stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approval of agenda.
So moved. Second.
3-0. No public comments. Approval of the May 8th and May 13th minutes. Everybody had a chance to look at it?
Move we accept the minutes for May 8th. Second.
3-0. Okay, Town of Bluffton land purchase, yeah.
Is that a motion for both, John? Is that a motion for both of them, or just May 8th?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I took it.
Both of them.
Both, okay.
On the town of Bluffton, you've seen this before, so I'm pretty much just looking for guidance. If you look at the letter, they have asked to, they actually say consider transfer of the property that's on 20 Bridge Street. It's 2.5 acres. If you look on, this is right next to MC Riley Elementary School. You look on the picture, you can see MC Riley, what the area they're suggesting, and our south side maintenance building right there. And where we kind of left it was, are we interested in this? And then the questions came up about the lease agreement, and the lease agreements have been provided. And now the question is, do we get an assessment on it? What would be done? And one of the questions I have with the assessment, just to let everybody know ahead of time, is that they just invested, I believe, $4.5 million in the upgrade of the building here, and the assessment's probably going to be less than that. So just keep that in mind. The value that they put into it's going to be more than the value of the building, most likely. So, how would you like me to proceed?
I move that we make a recommendation to the full board to instruct the administration to seek an appraisal of the property and all realty on it, and we get them to vote on that.
Yeah, I definitely would probably say that's probably the decision that maybe.
We can't discuss it till we get a second, Will.
Oh, second.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, yeah, I would say that, basically, yeah, I think it's probably something that needs to go to the full board.
Yeah, I agree with it. The question is, should we get an appraisal, or should we ask them, what are they offering?
It's kind of, what do you want me to do next
Yeah.
step? Because one of the things I think is going to come back is the appraisal is going to come back for less than they just invested in. So it's kind of, let's just say the appraisal comes back for $2 million, they just spent $4.5 million. Number one, it's not worth what they just invested in it. And are you going to ask them for $2 million of which they invested $4 million?
Well, if we're gonna make it a data-driven decision, we should have an appraisal to
I agree.
back us up.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But the question is too,
One thing-
doesn't the appraisal cost, correct?
Yeah, it's going to cost us probably about $1,500 for an appraisal.
I mean,
And
are
one
we
of the
planning
things-
on doing anything with the building right now, or
What's that?
are we planning on doing anything with the building right now?
They've been in this building for well over 10 years.
They got a 99-year lease
Yeah, and they've got a 99-year lease.
for $1.
And the lease has no exit clause.
That's no idea, yeah.
So the way to get out of it, both parties would have to agree on the exit. So, the other thing, one thing I was thinking, just to be honest, and I could ask for both, is to ask for the value of the land. I mean, that's really the value, and also a value of the building, and then I can give you both of those. I wouldn't think it'd be a big extra charge, and that way you can consider, based on the cost of land and the value of the building, what you wanted to offer the town of Bluffton.
what are they, gonna appraise? The land and the building when you get the appraisal?
Typically, they're together, so what I'd ask them for is do an appraisal of the land, the building, which includes the land, and then just the land by itself, what would that be worth? Because that's the value of this
Yeah,
property.
that's what we're selling.
Yeah,
Primarily, you can't sell it in your own building.
for the most part, that's
Well,
why.
it's our building.
Huh?
It's our building.
It's our building,
It's
yes,
our building, but they've upgraded it.
right.
Yeah, well.
The other side is if we knew any Bluffton property we were interested in that they own, we could switch for it, but I don't know.
When they say transfer in there, are they talking?
They're talking, in my mind, that says they may not be looking for a monetary cost on it.
But I'll read it too.
So I don't, but we don't know that until we make them an offer.
So they're looking, since they upgraded, let's just give them the property, that's what you're saying.
I think that's what they're asking.
Well,
Well, they're saying to transfer the property and the building. Can somebody call them and ask them what they mean by transfer?
Yeah, oh yeah. You do that prior to the next board meeting?
There.
If y'all make your
Yeah, call them
recommendation.
and ask them what they mean when they say transfer.
That's a realty term,
Yeah.
same way as sell.
I,
Transfer ownership, you take it from one party, put it
yeah,
on
they're
another.
gonna take it, they're gonna take the property over for all practical purposes. And they got it now, in fact, with your 99-year lease at $1.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep, it's worth nothing to us.
right, it's worth nothing to us.
I got that.
Who's paying the taxes on it?
Well, neither one, we don't pay taxes.
Oh, neither one.
Well, maybe the motion, we should go ahead and have him call for clarity, just to be clear, so that way we're not guessing and we're not saying in our terms what we think it is. And then from that, we'll make a board decision and move forward. I mean, because even when leases out, I continue to say that, leases get broken every day. I mean, that's just the bottom line, that's reality of life. So I mean, even when you have a lease, leases get broken. You have tenants who break lease every day. So the lease can be breaking. The lease better to say so. I'm not worried about the lease for 99 years and paying $1. The lease can be broken. I mean, because at some point in time, something has to be done about this. And we're moving forward.
The motion on the floor is to get an appraisal.
All right. So also
To recommend.
right to recommend, but also we need to add to that. I will amend that motion and ask for Robert to call them and get clarity on the what was it now? What was the
Transfer,
question?
the term transfer.
Make that a separate motion. Make that a separate motion,
Why?
because there's no sense in piling two things into one motion, just as a
Just make it
parliamentary procedure thing.
I mean, I don't know, I'll do it. I don't know if you necessarily need a motion for that. I can have that information by the next board meeting.
But you'll need to do that.
Yeah, I can call
And
that.
just see what they're thinking.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the word transfer, it's what are they thinking? That's what
Right.
I want to know. What are they thinking?
Yep.
They might even have a ballpark.
'Cause there's no cost or investment or anything involved in that, so I'll just tell you, I'll go do that. I don't necessarily need a motion for that.
Just don't they assess that property for taxes?
Does the town
I
do
don't
it?
know if the town or the county has.
I think it would be the
I don't
county.
know. All right, so we have the motion in favor.
Yeah, right. That's not bad. So basically,
We're going to recommend the board
yeah.
request an appraisal.
That's
So
right.
it's 3-0.
Who first and second, right?
John and
John did and William seconded.
Okay. Oh, that's the only option.
yeah. It's easy in these meetings, you know I can cheer.
It's either one or the other.
Right.
Yeah, either left, right, or right, left. Okay, PD 10, safety and security.
Okay, my turn. Most of the stuff I'm going to talk about should be very brief, the stuff you've already heard several times, beginning of the year and then towards the middle of the year. As far as the state mandated training, we've completed all of our active shooter drills for the district. They required us to do 2 per school, one the first semester, one second semester. We went above and beyond, and as a district, we required 3. One of those had to be during a passing period, whether it be lunch or recess or outside, so it wasn't just when they were in class. So we went above and beyond and had 3. The other thing that was required was the 2 training days for the staff for active shooter training. We decided to go with the CRAZE training, which stands for Civilian Response to Active Shooter Events. We had training at every single school. I used all 3 local police departments for their jurisdiction to do the training. On top of that, we also had training. Our second training was the February 18th day, which you guys were all invited, where we had scheduled, where they brought in pistols for firing blank rounds. The entire school district was there for that training that day. The makeup was May 15th for that, March 15th. Everybody in the district completed that training. Also listed here, you'll see these pages on, I broke it down for Beaufort schools, Bluffton schools, and Beaufort County schools. I went lockdown 1, lockdown 2, lockdown 3, and CRAZE training. Also, I brought in my security audit stuff. Every school had a security audit performed by me. And I brought in the checklist sheet for that, which shows you what all the things that I check off and mark and go over with the principals. Also was a copy of one of my audits that I did, but the report for it. If you guys have any questions on that? And then the last thing was the no trespass orders that I issue. I issued 6 this year for people in the district to keep them away from our schools. I believe last year I issued 10, so this was down this year compared to last year.
One of your favorite things to do?
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is go argue with a parent or somebody that tell them they can't come on our property. And then at the end of the year, I review all those to see if we're gonna keep them in force for the coming year or retract them.
What's the enforcement on that? We can issue a no trespass, but
They think that the law enforcement will back me up on that and arrest them if they show up. They don't know any better. There really isn't any
That's
other
what
than
I thought. That's what I
right. Law enforcement issued 2 additional ones of themselves, besides the 6 that I issued.
And the 60 that you issued, do you have a copy of those?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
they're public, right?
Well,
Yeah, I believe so. Along with the one law enforcement, if law enforcement people, I do believe that is public record. But that's just something I think that once those possibly, once those citations are issued, maybe I think that's something that board members should be informed of once they're issued. Once a citation is issued, I think that board members should be notified that we've had a citation issued over at Beaufort High School, or Bluffton High School, or Mayberry High School. Just to
yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Whatever needs to be done, get with Wendy and see if that's how she wants to proceed with that.
Yeah, make sure we're okay on that. Because there will be a name attached to that, right?
Right, yeah.
Right.
That's- I think it's okay, but I'll get Wendy to make sure.
I'll get Wendy to get her opinion on that.
Because this is not like official, this is from the school.
Just from the school,
Right,
right.
school district. So it's, like you and I writing a ticket, putting on somebody's car. All right, so we have a motion to move this to the board, recommend acceptance of this PD.
And basically, when we set this PE, what are we helping understand? What are we saying when we set this PE?
But we accept it.
I mean, but accepting it for.
David did his job, what he was supposed to do.
Right, he was supposed to give us this report, and he did.
Well, in the report, how many times he did his inspection, he's doing what he's supposed to do.
When the board accepts it, they're not saying necessarily they like it, they're saying, thank you for the report, because you were supposed to give us a report, and you did.
Acknowledges the report.
Acknowledges, that's,
Also, just the acknowledgement of the report.
So-
Second.
that's 3-0. Thank you. We're recommending acceptance of that.
Okay.
Next is the FOIA.
Lily is not here, she is out of town. We put the information in here for you all to have. If you have questions, whatever, she can answer them if you want to move it forward to the, meeting for the 25th, where she will be here, so. You all asked that this come quarterly, so this is the FOIA report that comes quarterly.
This is new.
Yes, this is
This
the
is
new,
first time,
this is the first time,
Wendy.
she's out of town, so she thought she had, so she sent me the copy without the signatures, because she thought she had sent it earlier before she left, so that's why you have it without the signatures. The FOIA is a new PE that was established with the previous board before going out. The dates were asked to be put on here quarterly, so this is, and you all determined the format, your work session in February, and so this is the quarterly report for June, through June,
So through April.
or, well, yes, the April, but I'm saying June is the quarter.
This is what we asked for.
We accept.
Will,
Was that,
move, there's a move that we
I
recommend
move
acceptance.
well, probably I moved that, it's outside of it.
It's three of this is this format we asked for, this is the timing we asked
Yep.
for.
Yeah, that's fine.
We recommend acceptance of that. Great, thank you. I still don't fully understand why, what the blanks mean.
Okay, guys, safe driving, heavy rain coming.
Like when it's all blank across here, what does that mean? Does that mean it's resolved or not?
No, we'll see, these say no charge.
Charge.
Right.
So these
the-
have
so
charges.
Those will be the charges
Right,
for,
but if it's no charge, did we resolve it?
Oh, I don't know why,
Well, that's-
there's
yeah.
a reason for no charge.
Did we send it or not? In
That's a
fact,
good.
there was no charge, okay, there was no charge, did we send it?
Well, it says, well, yeah, responded, you don't know what
Yeah.
the response is.
So we might,
Oh, no.
well, when we get to the full board, we might wanna.
Do you
I might wanna
want
read
me
that.
to
This is
ask
the
her?
format we suggested.
right,
Okay.
do you want for the question for, to ask, does this mean that it was not sent out or not? You want me to ask her
Yeah.
so that she could
Yeah.
be able to answer
Completed.
that?
Yeah, or sent, or something. And I know we asked that when we talked about the format, but
Over 4 months, right, we got 35 FOIA requests. Why the big hullabaloo for years now about how it's a distraction for the staff to have to do all these things? It's amazing, this what, 10 a month? Not even that, 3.5 a month. 9 a month, 9 to 36.
No?
I don't know if they're all on here. And that'll be a question we have to ask. It's, and that would be a question, are they all on here? My understanding was that there was a citizen who had 65 open FOIA requests. I was told. A parent.
Were they between January?
Well, that's true, it's not on here.
Right.
So who's the, I mean,
So is it a pending?
Well,
Pending
that's a
request?
question for Anita. Yes,
60
yes.
blank areas.
All right, my understanding
Already
was that
resolved.
the Nelson family had 65 open FOIA.
Right, I can ask Jennifer those and
Just
I'll have
ask.
her get back to me.
But we've already recommended that it was,
Go to it.
it met the requirements. Okay. The busing issue. Did we ever resolve it?
Well,
This is the 1.5 mile radius.
right.
Shanky?
Well, what we had resolved, it's not, it's actually, not, yeah, Shanklin. And I brought some more information on it. what we had resolved were, on our end, we said, we're gonna just continue to bus them, is what we stated. We weren't gonna fight, or we weren't gonna try to change it next year. Now, I've got more information if you want me to go over, I've got more knowledge now of what the issues are, I have to say, if you want me to go over that with you, and that's what these are. But, we have told.
I just wanted to know what the final resolution was, because I was up in the air as to. what we were
I'd say
gonna
we
do.
told the parents as of next year, we were gonna continue to bus. That being said, I'd say we would want in the future at some time to move towards not busing them. One of the issues that we were gonna have is we currently do not have a sidewalk from the road, Morel to the school. And there's, I think, a crosswalk. So the two things we were gonna have to do if we were gonna have them walk was pursue getting a crosswalk stripe over a DOT road and then us adding a sidewalk. So because of the issues we had last year, we had just said, we'll continue busing. But in the future, I'm gonna come back and try not to bus it.
If we're continuing the busing, does that mean we're gonna pay a fine?
That means that we have potential to be charged by the state, yes.
Potential. Okay.
That's, you haven't been charged yet.
We had this year, and this is kind of what I'm understanding, we did not actually pay a charge because we did some services for some special need students using our buses, and we didn't charge the state. And there were some of these items for within the half-mile radius that they didn't charge us, so it's kind of an equal swap of services. So there were not actually any charges last year.
All right, that's important.
What you
So-
think at some point they are gonna charge?
Well,
You didn't ask for a waiver or anything, I didn't ask for a waiver on that, because of the
no,
structure.
it would have to be a hazardous route. For the most part, the state manager and our manager ride the route, and if it's a hazardous route, then we typically would try to provide our own transportation using our own buses. If it's a non-hazardous route, then we pretty much would have to pay the state to use their buses.
And hazardous is defined as no sidewalk.
No sidewalks. No sidewalks, the big.
No sidewalks,
If
the big
there's no sidewalk, it's gonna be hazardous. So like, that's why.
So this situation does have sidewalks?
Yes. The concern was, and it does have some street lights, that it's not a lit street, and it doesn't have a crosswalk. And the third thing was, it doesn't have a sidewalk that goes from the road to the school. Now, that would be on us. We would need to provide that.
Yeah.
But the rest of it,
City of Beaufort, who does the sidewalk, the county or the city?
this is a DOT road, so, well, the main road. So if you look on this drawing right here, this is Shanklin Elementary School, and this blue line, that's going down Morel, that's a DOT road. And what I show you is the blue dots, those are the ones that we were wanting to walk. And that line there, that's the blue, this blue line, that's a half mile. So they're all within a mile and a half. They're all within a half mile. And there's a sidewalk all the way down that road. So that is who we were wanting to walk. There was some confusion about some of the other children, and that's these in red. These in red are all within a mile and a half, but we considered those all hazardous. They didn't have sidewalks. They had ditches and other things. These yellows were kind of question marks because the first two yellow locations are within the mile and a half. That last one is on the perimeter, so we kind of would have to pick them up. So the thought is either those children could walk to that spot or we can pick them up. They're kind of a question. But these blue spots were the ones that we were trying to get converted to walkers.
Does it not represent one child?
It just represents a stop, a
A
bus,
stop, okay.
bus stop, not one child.
You saying those folks from the other streets also, come to these stops or no?
Yes, they all, like, you'll see the stop at the end of the street, and a lot of those kids have to walk down the street to come to that stop.
Okay,
Because you can't go,
so Rough Rack has to come to that stop, the red dot on the Rough Rack.
right.
No
that
bus
White
route.
Wing Drive.
There's no bus routes there because of hazardous.
Right, Rugrat has no sidewalk and it has ditches on the side of the road,
Mm-hmm.
so it is considered even though it's close to the school, but there's no sidewalk.
Okay.
So unless y'all wanna give me some other directive.
What are you looking for from us?
Nothing, I just wanted closure. I never had closure on that. I didn't realize we were not gonna do anything next year. I didn't realize we weren't gonna get fined. The last I knew it was up in the air.
I would say I'm probably gonna come back to you next year.
That's fine.
I just told the parents we weren't gonna do it this year, so. The
Are they
other,
happy with what's happening?
oh yeah, they want their kids to ride the bus.
Okay.
As opposed to the ditches on the side of the road. I don't blame them.
Well, yeah,
Now,
it's so close.
And the principal's
The
happy.
parents don't.
The principal's happy if the parents are happy, yes.
Because the principal stirred it up with the parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the other one's Buford L, if you want to see.
Yeah.
And Buford L is the second one. These are, you'll see this blue line, these are all stops we make that have sidewalks and are within 1.5 miles. That blue line is 1 mile long, so they all should have to walk to school. Quite honestly, when we had the issues with all the crime issues around Buford L, we were talking about this, and I pretty much said, well, due to the issues around the school right now, we weren't gonna require them to walk to school. I would say eventually, though, we'd want them to walk to school as well.
Yeah, 'cause there were sidewalks
Yeah, they're sidewalks.
there.
So, what's happening now? They are taking buses at these.
Now, we haven't
bus
made any
stops?
promises to these individuals, to be honest with you. But as of right now, we weren't pursuing making them walk.
Okay, I mean, you are now picking them up.
Yes. If you'll remember when this came up and we got audited by the state, and that's about the time they had that drug bust right across the street.
Yeah,
And I just thought it would not be a good idea to
yeah. Help them walk, I'm saying.
ask them to walk the same week that there was a major drug bust.
All right. Yeah.
So if y'all want me to do anything with this time we're busting?
I'm not interested. I only put it on the agenda to get closure.
So we're
We don't have to hear about there. There is nothing.
This one is the more costly, to be honest, the Buford L, because the bus goes out of its way, it's not on its regular route. So this one, if we're gonna change one, it'd be this one sooner than later. So if anybody has any feeling strong one way or the other, please let me know. We're, as of right now, not doing anything, but does anybody feel strongly like we should make them walk, or that we should have them ride the bus?
We're not gonna get fined.
Stay with,
Take them around, that's fine.
stay with where you are right now until either they can clean up that neighborhood or that's become permanent.
That was kind of my feeling with that issue. I wasn't
But
So you think that would fit into the definition of hazardous? But,
gonna, the number of bus and.
but it doesn't. Okay, so we've resolved that, and in the report, I'll just say there is no issue.
At this time.
We confirm there is no issue. For this year, All right. The next thing I have on here, start times next step. Because we did the cluster, and we said it should be cluster specific. That can be, each cluster can decide, and the administration should go out and collect responses. I don't know that second part. I think there's something
That's
there
where
as to
there's-
who's doing that.
I was gonna say, when y'all made that motion, I didn't know if we're directed, there wasn't a directive on how that was gonna be done, or who was, I thought y'all were doing it, to be honest.
I'm not sure how we would do
So
it.
that's, what is,
And what's that now again, David?
Pardon?
What was that again now?
This is, you know, we established that each cluster could make the decision as
Right.
long as they realized there was 1 hour turnaround. They want the high, if Whale Branch cluster wants high school to go first,
Right,
that's fine. And if Hilton Head decides the opposite, that's fine.
right,
Because it can be cluster
right,
specific until we get that report
right,
in the fall. It doesn't have to be district-wide.
right.
But the next step is, okay, so we said that, who's gonna find
So
out
maybe
from the
what we should,
parents?
maybe what we should do is, Either you put, either we could do town halls. I mean, which now could be rough over the summer, or we could do town hall. I mean, depending on when we want to start.
I don't know how to do a scientific survey.
Well, I wouldn't even go with scientific.
Survey. I don't know how to do it well. I really want somebody who knows how to do it well.
I would propose that we divvy up the clusters. We have to approach this professionally and decide who the constituencies are. Town halls won't do for talking to a principal about what they need, okay? So if we split it up, each take a cluster, the three of us decide who the constituencies are. Parents, obviously, town hall, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
What's the best way to talk to an SIC and the principal for the schools? What's the best way to do that? Is it all a group from that cluster, or are we gonna run around and talk to individuals? I don't know, it doesn't matter. But that's how I think that would be the next step, is to assign a cluster and formulate a plan, a process that, the John and Robert show where it takes off for Bluffton or Hilton Head or wherever, okay? And we go around and then we set a target, an end date for that to conclude, and to come back in here with a report about what that cluster's recommending. Or something like that, words to that effect.
I hear you.
You can have, because the new teacher group formed, because they did do a survey, perhaps you can have them do it, or you can go through the communications department and they can send it out, because Robert's department would have the lines of who's all in what clusters or who attend the attendance zones of schools, and so the communication can send out if you're doing surveys and then town halls.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That was my question. They bus across attendance zones, for example, in Bluffton, Robert, or only the buses staying there on attendance zone?
I guess
Across clusters, I mean.
there is some right now, because there are no clean feeders in Bluffton, in
Yeah,
other
that's what
words,
I mean,
middle school
yeah.
split.
Exactly.
And also with the recent, on the new developments, like there's two new developments in New Riverside that are bused to Bluffton
Yeah,
High. So
right.
they're in the May River area and they go to Bluffton High.
So if they're voting, how do they get? That's the only thing I'd see that you really have a challenge with. How do you get the people who are voting in quote cluster to really speak for the people who are not in the cluster attendance zone, but in the cluster schools?
Well,
And
That's it.
because you have
My tendency would be to just say, all right, if you go to Bluffton School,
Okay,
doesn't
but-
matter from where,
exactly, you have the town hall at
come
Bluffton High School.
to, come to this meeting.
That's Bluffton High School, exactly. There you go to town hall at your high school.
But
Yeah, but I
Elementary-
just focus on the high school.
Elementary
No, I'm
school.
not, no. What I'm
Because
saying.
the elementary
No.
school, you've got Bluffton over here.
That's not what I'm saying.
The
I'm
students, let me finish, and the students don't transfer. And the elementary school kids want to start later, the high school kids want to start later. That's the problem we had last time.
right.
Everybody wanted to delay the start.
Right, but I'm saying when you have the town halls, you host the town halls at the high school. And if you hold a town hall at Beaufort High School, then St. Helena Elementary School, Lady Elementary School, all those schools who will be a feeder to that high school, middle school, then they would be 9 times out of 10 they will be in that cluster, and that's who will come to that meeting.
Right, be nice,
That's-
nice if that works, but it doesn't sound like in Bluffton, it's just.
I don't know if
clean
that'll
as
work
that.
in Bluffton as easily. I mean, that's why I asked Robert if they're going across.
Why? I mean,
It probably will if all the schools
if you're in
well,
that,
feed directly into the major schools, right?
They
But-
should know what high school they go to. So
yeah,
the
where's no
problem
cluster
is,
you? That's to me.
Yeah.
Most times when you talk about cluster, these kids have common sense and know what cluster they're in, and so the parents know, hey, my child is in the B is in the
Now-
Bluffton cluster. So therefore, that to me, that's second nature, that common sense. That if something's happening at Bluffton High School, right in the American community, and my child goes to Bluffton High School, then most parents are pretty much would be snappy saying, okay, I need to go to the Bluffton Township meeting.
I think on the elementary school level,
Yeah.
they pretty much do go to high school. Matter of fact, the one exception is probably Buford L. Middle school is where there's a problem, because middle schools, may go to multiple high schools,
Right.
especially in Bluffton.
Right.
But most elementaries would go, they know their path.
You gotta feed them,
Would
yeah.
be to one of the two high schools.
Yeah.
Okay, so without trying to to me, it sounds fairly simple. We know where we send these kids,
Yeah.
so let's just notify the parents.
Here's the problem is that the SICs aren't
Huh?
meeting. The problem would be the SICs aren't meeting now.
Right now, yeah, because it's summertime, right?
They don't meet again until school starts.
Yeah, yeah, but we gotta plan this thing now.
Oh, so now that's what, are you planning for next year, or are you planning?
We're planning for the, I assume that we're planning for the fall to have this process begin. Is that square with you?
No, I thought we were trying to get this by the time school
We
started.
anticipating the schools.
Right, no, I thought you were both saying the same thing.
Huh?
No.
No,
For
he's
next
saying
year.
for,
He's saying as in next year, as in, say this time come around next year. I'm talking about when school starts this year.
I think we all agree that's not doable.
Why not?
Pardon?
September 2019. That's what you're talking, August 2019.
Right, yeah.
That's what you're talking.
No, he's talking 20.
I'm talking August 2020.
I ain't talking 20, I'm talking 19.
I'm not sure.
Robert is the man with the
Yeah,
page.
well, we
well, I would agree with Mr. Dowling that it is not a lot of time.
Well, y'all had this plan months ago. To me, it's unexcusable.
No, I know.
So
Yeah, but we are where we are.
right, and I believe we can get it done. If we want to have it, we can have something over the summer. Have parents come and have people put in the paper and have a meeting. I mean, I don't see why not. And we already have some data from teachers. So I mean, we go with what we have. And offer parents to come out and say something. And if it's conflicting, then we wait. But give them the opportunity to move forward now. I see no problem in delaying this. I mean, Mr. Donner may not want to do it in his district, but in my district, the message I'm getting, let's move forward as soon as possible. Two different people, two different clusters.
I don't want to overemphasize the parents as a constituency. We have to talk to teachers forums, we have to talk to the administrators, and that's,
You may have to, I don't.
oh, you don't?
No, I don't.
Why?
When we go to town hall and we tell everybody, then that's everybody's opportunity to come there and say how they feel. All that stuff that you're talking about, John. I'm not.
How you gonna get, okay, I don't think it's appropriate to discuss school business with teachers and principals at town halls. Town halls is a chance to get input from the civilians, from the parents, okay? But they're only a factor in the landscape of the decision-making. We agreed that we were gonna try to come up with the best start time plan that services the needs of the students, the staff, and the parents. So we have to talk to students, we have to talk to staff, and we have to talk to parents. Nobody's gonna come to a town hall and talk about, I'm a teacher, and and I have a daycare issue. They should be able to talk to us in a focused way about that. The town halls are at best anecdotal input. You get a very small percentage of people trying to dominate the conversation, okay? And the teachers are not gonna, the staff will be perhaps reluctant to talk about their issues in front of parents because it can be misinterpreted, okay? Town halls are, to me, they're useful, but they should not be a determinant in the process. It's a very complicated.
That's not my experience going to town hall.
I'm sorry?
That's not my experience with town halls. My experience with town halls.
Well, you've had 5 months experience, I've had some
We
years.
got now.
Yeah, well, I agree with John. It's got to be a lot more comprehensive in terms of the surveying before you come to a final conclusion, or you'll have the same bickering again after a year or two. We didn't have an input. We didn't have this, so you might have to have components of inputs and come up with some kind of survey of the whole thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna agree with all of, I mean, I think what you're saying is last time that was the issue, is there wasn't enough input.
Right.
And it is one of those things where 1 or 2 town halls, it'd be a low percentage of a sampling. And you won't hear until those people, until you make that change. and then they're gonna come out quite adamantly. This is the kind of issue that's going to upset somebody. There are gonna be some upset groups, and you need to, have several meetings and give everybody the opportunity to speak. That's my thought.
David? Let me give you an example. Take the referendum. You have a town hall, hold the referendum. Parents come to the town hall and they stress the need for what the referendum is going to offer. But they don't address the tax rate, but that's something we have to consider in voting for or against a referendum, is the impact on the tax rate. But you're not going to get that type of input out of the town hall. You're going to get certain groups lobbying for their specific needs.
Well, guess what? Guess what the reality of life is?
Huh?
Guess what the reality of life is? You don't pay your water bill, it gets get cut off. If they don't come, when we have these meetings, if they don't, if everybody prioritize for whatever they want. When we have these meetings, I don't have time for you to come tap me on the shoulder and tell me what you want. When I have these meetings, people need to learn. Oh, when I have these meetings, when we have these meetings, come out and say what you want. It's plain and simple. This is how it's supposed to be done. Not putting the society and saying, hey, this. When we have town hall, that's the point of the use of having town halls. I've seen plenty of town halls where people have came out to when we first made this decision. They may not remember, but I remember when there were reams of people out there asking at the town hall. Beaufort High School auditorium was packed with people saying, "Don't change the start time." So what you're talking about and what he's talking about, I don't remember. But what I do remember is to my recollection that Beaufort High School auditorium was packed with people asking them not to change the start time. So that's what I'm basing my decision off of.
So you want basically the parents to drive the decision on this, is what you're telling me?
I mean, from what Robin said, there was already a teacher's analysis already done, so we can take that into consideration. And those teachers, I'm sure, they came to our budget reads the same way how they came to our budget reads. They come out to the town hall and express their feelings.
And I think the teacher, it wasn't real definitive. It was about a 50-50 split. So there wasn't a big push to change it.
Well, I mean, okay, well, now the parents make the final decision. It's that simple. They can come out there and say what they want to say. I mean, I think the middle will be, after we come back from Christmas break next year, change the time. That's the furthest I would be entertaining on pushing it back. Not 2020. 2020 is what you want from the get-go. I'm not going with that.
You just say Christmas.
Yeah, we're gonna break for Christmas
January.
and come back in
January.
January. January.
Mid-year.
Yeah, mid-year.
You're right. We have an awful lot of feedback. We're not going to please everybody. The data we already have, if it's not broken by cluster, that's the big thing that's new,
Right.
is that it's by cluster now.
Right.
So if the data's not broken down by cluster
And it's
from the
not.
teachers,
And
and
it's
it's
not.
not,
You don't
It's
have
not.
it's not useful.
Finish,
It's not.
right. You don't have
Right.
to finish.
I think a lot of the old data is probably not used to us, or useful to us now, because now we've changed so you can be cluster specific. You know,
Let me just.
my gut is that we don't have enough time to change for next year, but
Here's,
Convince me.
I'll do the engineer scheduling mindset that I have. So if you work yourself backwards, let's say we are gonna make a change. How far back do you think you need to give parents notice? That's a question.
today,
No, I mean, like, do you need to give them
No,
4
time-wise,
weeks?
yeah, a month,
Do you need to
but
give them 2 months, 1
Usually
month?
a month.
So 1 month, so by August 20th, that means by July 20th, we have to have the situation out. So that means by
5
the
weeks.
first week in July, the board needs to make the decision. So that means that you've got you got about 2 weeks.
There's only one board
Let me
meeting.
just say from
and a special
experience,
vote.
I was the director of transportation for the SPED department in the largest regional school district in Massachusetts, okay? And no one can come up with a change of that magnitude in 5 weeks. Nobody. Okay, so what I would suggest, I move that we adopt responsibilities for certain clusters, and that the next meeting, we discuss the actual process steps we'll take within those clusters to come back to this committee with feedback in order to bring a recommendation to the, and to continue to define what information we need from Robert, and then have a recommendation to the board.
That's good.
I'm inclined to want to involve the district people that do these surveys and stuff, to get them to tell me how long, and what lead time they need, how much saturation can they get. I'd rather us not do it, because we don't know what we're doing.
Well, the process, yeah, the process, what I'm just trying to define is what kind of process steps we'll take, identify the constituencies, and then share with each other about how clusters need to accomplish that.
Now, some of the ways.
That's just us, we don't even,
Yeah,
we
Yeah.
just need to agree on that.
Well, one of the things I'd bring the new superintendent in, one of the ways, when we had the high school forums, the student forums, that, you know, Dr. Moss did that pretty religiously. Last year, we did it without the superintendent, it was just senior staff. That was one of the questions we always asked the student forum, was what is their opinion on start times? And so, like, if the superintendent wants to do these student forums, that's a great time to ask those questions. So just, I think that the superintendent probably should get involved in that schedule on how to incorporate it and get input.
It's not just the parents, and also when you look at the time that the high school kids are missing out of class, it's imperative that we change the start time back.
No, that's some of the feedback you get from that forum.
Who was in there? High school students only?
So the way that those worked is the principal would select the students, and usually it'd be a group of about, it'd be anywhere from
About 15 kids that they told what they wanted to say.
25 to 50. No,
I don't know what
different
to say, but
different principals did it differently. Some principals, they try to get somebody from ROTC, they try to get somebody from football, try to get somebody from drama, so that most groups and clubs are represented. It actually is a good, yes, they're special
one
kids.
thing about that, though, Robert, you know, who it does not affect in terms of who is there? The people who ride the bus. I'd say a lot. You look at the forum.
No, we
I
did
bet-
ask them that.
I bet most of those children that's in that forum drive if they're high school students.
Believe it or not, I think we would get about half, would say, half or a little under half would ride the bus, I'd say.
Okay, no, but that's true.
And some of them would say they don't ride the bus anymore, but they did when they were younger.
Well, to be honest with you, Robert, just to be totally candid, I mean, when it comes to situation, that's not, I don't want, that's not nothing for the superintendent. I don't want the superintendent to bring me back. I want to hear from the people, because the superintendent ain't vote. So, yeah, I hear what he's saying, but I want to hear from myself first. I mean, the trust isn't there with me. I mean, other people can say, but I want to hear from myself from the constituents. I want to hear from myself from the kids. I don't want to hear what he brings
We're
back.
invited to those student forums.
I was about to say, what's the trust? I don't understand. the trust.
I just want to make sure that is, I got it crystal clear that I heard it from the kids, and in those forums, like he said, the majority of those kids don't drive, those kids are told what to say.
And they're all high school kids.
Yeah, high school.
the high school
You
kids.
can ask the elementary.
And yeah, they're removed from that elementary burden.
It's not an easy task, so we
I
gotta
don't think they're upset about it. They gotta bring their other kids to the school.
As you said, we gotta come up with a process that we're willing to follow.
Multi-pronged process, that's a multi-pronged process. That is
develop a process, identify, you know, we always want to skip a couple of steps and we start, it's like the time we had a meeting, we were talking about how many bus drivers we were gonna need when we hadn't determined who was going to what school yet. Okay? That's what I'm just trying to do. Let's just break it down into simple steps, and the first simple step is develop a process.
Well, the good news is, to be honest, if you're looking at the 2020 year, you got plenty of time. I mean, you can do a good process and figure it out, and have lots of input. And actually, now's the time. It's a great time to be talking about it. So,
How's the backdrop though?
I would just never ask.
Some of the other thing for the public
yeah,
sentiment right
that's
now.
why
Yeah, they're looking for just a word of mouth change of start time to make every particular person happy. And that's, undoable, but you're gonna get the political back unless you got something in the works to say, it's in the works, it's gonna happen,
Well, the other advantage to doing 2020 is we'll have the feedback on whether we can cut that hour turnaround down to
Right.
45 minutes. So
We'll
that's
have
an
more
advantage.
information on that.
We'll have that. I'm gonna just put that off the side just for a second. The academics committee, should we meet with the academics committee? Because there's a start time thing there too. I'll tell you, my feeling is, once you collect everybody's opinion, they don't care about the research.
Right.
You can tell them, this is what we did last time, we told them all this research. Well, if they wanted their kid to go later, and the research said earlier, they didn't care what the research said. And the feedback I'm getting is, we don't have any data that says the start time changes had any effect on.
No, we don't.
But we can meet with the academic committee. I think they would like to meet so that all 6 of us
Yeah.
could talk
But
this over.
and I think it would be better to meet with them when we have a process to talk to them about, so that they can fold in to a process rather than us working in silos and coming up with redundant meetings and all that.
Yeah, I agree. I just trying to say we want to coordinate with them. Because I know that the teacher forum sent an email to myself and to Tricia saying, we would like both committees to deal with the school start time. And I already told you, my first response was, yeah, you can quote all the research you want, it's not going to have any effect.
Well, plus,
You could do all the academic stuff you want, that's not what people are interested in.
a political reality is this, that the teachers forum is made up of predominantly elementary teachers, because there are more of them, okay? So if you ask for a unified one opinion out of the teachers forum, you're gonna probably get an elementary weighted opinion. So that's why I'm advocating that we talk to the staffs of each building, rather than a selected group of representatives in the teacher forum. It's helpful to get the teacher forum opinion,
Right.
okay?
How do you propose we do that?
What?
How do you propose we do that? Break point. How do you propose we do that? Start telling me how you propose it to get done.
That's,
I know, but how do you say, when you say staff, I'm thinking of this is a building where it has staff, and when you have a staff meeting, they go in the middle room and they meet with the staff. Tell me, how do you propose for us to do that?
go to the schools, okay, in the cluster.
Right. So we go to all the schools in the clusters, right?
Or ask the principals how they would get a group of teachers together for a meeting.
Either we meet with all the staff, or we meet with none of the staff. Because when you ask teachers to get that group of meeting, that may be the group of people who are putting something in their, in within the interest of the principal. So either we meet with one or we meet with none. That has to be.
Or ask them to go to a town hall at night.
No matter what tool you use, there's a bias.
No
No matter what tool you use.
Well, I disagree with that, John. I mean, I disagree with that. I disagree with that because the fact that if you tell them a time and say, hey, look at it, if it's value to you, then you come there and you make it, and not necessarily.
I understand your point.
Right.
And you can say, hey, you didn't vote, don't complain.
Period.
You can say that.
Right.
We got a lot of teachers who work second jobs.
I mean, you can say that.
I said, David is right, there's a bias, like John point, John says, okay, the teacher forum got more elementary school teachers. Well, that means the district got more elementary school teachers, so when you do give everybody a select vote, the elementary teachers know how to vote the others. So that's not, it says all mute in terms of that. A representative is what, and to your point, a representative is what you're gonna get. Whether that representative is reflective and enough of the data where we can read from it and make the decisions, that's what we gotta be going at. How do we get that sampling to say, hey, it's the best we can do. It's not down to the T, but it's as good a scientific as we can get and make the right decisions for each cluster, which is now a little bit easier than where it was. Because if you're talking each cluster, then you're giving them a little bit of independence, a little bit of flex.
And each cluster might need a different process.
You know,
Right,
I can see that Whale Branch might have a totally different opinion than
right.
Hilton Head.
Then Hilton
So I
Head.
think we've made progress there, giving them that flexibility. So for our next meeting, should we all bring in our process that we would like to follow?
Good.
We'll all chart up what we think should, and we'll sit and compare it and hammer out a process. Then subsequent to that, we'll ask the academics committee to have a joint meeting.
That's fine.
Good.
Yeah, because they're gonna look for some academic grounding, and there is none. There is none. Facts never trump emotion. You don't want your kids standing out there. You're an elementary school kid. You don't want them out in the dark. You can give them all the research you want. Doesn't make any difference. You don't want your kid out there in the dark.
And I think historically, if we have too centralized meetings, if we have too many centralized, or too few,
Right.
I think most of the people find out what's gonna happen after the meeting. And that's when they come out of the woodwork. And that's when we start getting the emails, you know, hey, I hear that.
All right. How come you didn't? How come you didn't call
Okay,
me?
Miss.
And their best interest can't not be represented by us based on whether they came to a meeting or not. You know?
All right. So what we've decided is, while we focused on 2020, we'll come in with our processes, write-ups for the next meeting. And then see where we are.
We're gonna have a
Just
joint
do it
meeting
this-
with academics. When
And then
did
the next meeting after that. Unless they want a special meeting.
And we might,
Just ask them.
and we might give them a pilot come January of next year. We might give them a pilot on a couple clusters. See, they set a pilot works. That's what they
That's an
want to do.
option.
That's an option.
Probably an option.
In 2019.
That's certainly an option. We've done pilots before. Didn't help us though.
I understand, but hey, that's something to get my ball rolling quicker.
Yeah, I
That's
hear
all.
you. I hear you. And I appreciate
To the
that.
place Dr. Miles put.
It would
Let's
be-
pilot it.
It would be nice to show people.
Yeah, he is that, right?
Yeah, right. All right, that's where we are with that one.
Yep.
Our construction update.
All right, so I have a couple things to report. All right, so the main one, OSF, as far as occupancy of the PAC, is pretty much complete. There's a couple paperwork signing, which you will notice is we have spent up to the penny of what we have on this project. I don't think I've ever been this tight. But as of right now, we are fully spent, or fully contracted as far as the budget for that project. But we're also occupying, we're at the very end, there shouldn't be a lot of costs left. Summer work's going. This came out awful small. The main thing here was just some of the many projects that are going on. I don't know if you want me to go in detail. There is one item I do want you to be aware of. That one item is not something that I'm happy with or proud of, but May River High School, 8 classroom modular, that will be late. It will not make the start of school. It is right now scheduled to be up and running by October.
What's that now?
Wow.
You said,
Got it, we got it.
I'm asking them to say it again.
So what I just said is the modular at May River High School will not make the start of school.
And the reason why?
Order too late.
What will it cost for them to expedite it?
The contractor looked into that, looked at offering, and there was some fault. The way mobiles work is there's a broker and then there's a factory. There's only 3 factories in the country. The broker we use is called William Scotsman. William Scotsman sat on it a little too long and they recognized that. They went to go offer at the factory anybody that was ahead of us in line $50,000 in order for us to move up the line. No one took it. Everybody that's in front of us are all other school districts. And so we are where we are in line.
Is there any other all right, so you look for volunteers to step out of the line to let us go. I'm going back to 1983 when we were out of test chambers and digital to get enough power supplies tested. And the company that supplied these portable test chambers couldn't do it any faster unless they built their own portable manufacturing facility. And we bore that cost. We got our test chambers on time, and we went about our business. I'd like to see what the company that is manufacturing needs to be able to do it. Do they need to expand their production schedule? Do they need to be providing overtime to their people?
Well, I did
It
ask.
sounds like a rather passive response from the manufacturer.
I did ask that. They're currently working 6 days a week on 3 shifts. And so their answer is they have no additional capacity. Supposedly NASA put in a big order at where we are. Our other two, the problem is this is a specialized modular, so they make them to order. Pritchardville, River Ridge, we ordered a standard modular. Those they make all year round and they kind of have them on stock. We're getting those two next week. We ordered them at the same time. The specialized modular had to wait for its turn in line, and
Why is it
Why?
specialized?
Yeah, that is
so just the ones we've always done in the past are the specialized ones. Those are the ones with the hallway down the middle, like 8 classrooms. So it's an 8 classroom modular with a hallway down the middle.
Like at River Ridge.
Exactly.
Okay.
The ones that we've ordered this year for River Ridge and Pritchardville are the old school 2 classroom modular, doors to the outside. And those we're getting on time.
Okay. So that's the only difference?
And I did ask, and actually I have not gotten the answer back, to be honest. I did ask if we could replace that with the old school modulars at May River High School, and I have not gotten the answer for that.
You have not got the answer yet. How long ago did you ask?
Actually, it was last week.
Who did you ask?
When did you tell me you needed the answer?
I'll find out. I know I don't have the answer on that.
Okay. How many students are affected by this?
So May River High School, that's 8 classrooms, that's 116 students. May River High School is already completely full. Todd is pretty frantic. He has come up with a plan. The issue that he's dealing with now is that they're also looking at moving special needs classrooms from Bluffton High to May River High due to the size of the special needs population is large enough now that it can move to May River High. Problem is with that comes the need for a classroom and a sensory room, and he had it planned out to the max, and that loss of additional classrooms is really has him perplexed.
So what would the impact be to Bluffton High if we delayed that transition from Bluffton to May River and asked them to hang on with what they're doing for a little while?
Well, that's
Kill the students.
That is what I suggested, but the issue is that in Bluffton High could deal with that. The issue is whether or not that meets special needs regulations. So the problem is if there's enough kids that go to May River that are at Bluffton High to form one class, then it's hard for us to say they shouldn't be at May River High School. Now, what I will say that Todd Mornshire has already talked to Dr. Rodriguez about, and he said they're going to talk about it further, is about letting seniors that have enough credits leave, go ahead and not be forced to stay at school. Does anybody know that term? So if you got all your credits and you're a senior,
Dr. Rodriguez did that.
Early
He
graduation.
didn't want to talk about it now.
Yeah, at this time.
And he'll address that with
that's one of the things Todd is really pushing for. He thinks he can meet the needs if he's granted that ability, that he'll have enough seniors to free up enough space, that he'll have enough classroom space. So we will have it in October, but he's got 6 weeks he has to deal with where he's not gonna have those classes.
Oh, we could rezone real quick and put the people who live right by the school back at their school. We could rezone to where we could have enough space to where Bluffton High School can actually hold the capacity that it's built to hold, and Mary can hold the capacity that it's built to hold, and
We can do real well with rezoning.
I tried to rezone.
Remember, the board voted down option 2, and they also voted down not rezoning. Voted both of those down. So rezoning stuff. Now, this is a big deal.
Yes.
We're gonna have to present the board with options, and we don't even know which options are viable.
The principal would have, that would be Todd Dornschauer, and right now, his only option that he's put forward is the graduation of seniors early.
Somehow, it seems like we ought to get this out when we present it to the board. Okay, this is what the principal plans on doing. This is when the special ed regs kick in if you don't, the whole.
I would say Dr. Rodriguez, they're waiting on him to weigh in, so that's a little difficulty to give options right now.
so how long ago did we make this decision to not rezone?
So that was made in January, February, and that was one of the issues. We waited on the rezoning decision once we found out that, so the board had approved the year before for one large mobile, and once the rezoning decision was made, we knew we would need additional mobiles. So we came back to the board to ask for additional mobiles, and we didn't order all of them until we got our approval for the additional. And at that time, so we ordered them in March, is when we ordered the mobiles.
Whatever, we are where we are.
And
I'm just saying that,
I hear you.
that my motion is going to be to rezone. That's to be
The
my
rezoning was back in December.
Right.
December.
I mean, I was
We voted on that. You're right. Yeah.
right. I was trying to figure out how long ago was that, because maybe that's something that needs
That
to
was
be.
the whole board.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to figure out, whether it's the new board or whether it's the old board, because that's something that I may bring forward. Let's rezone.
I think y'all took in January, y'all are the one that made the decision.
No, we didn't.
No?
We met in
I
the summer.
distinctly remember, I
Was
said
it
I
December?
would
In the
do,
summer
got
at-
voted down.
at- at-
Evan
at
Anderson said
Bluffton
no
Library.
rezoning, and that got voted down.
Yeah.
Is there anything that can be done in between today and Dr. Rodriguez arriving and being ready to address the issue?
Well, the only thing I'm aware of is for us to look at the standard mobile to see if those can be ordered. If we can get enough standard mobiles to take the place of these, and that, I need to find out that.
Could we get the answer as soon as you know it?
I can call right now if y'all want to stick around.
No, you don't have to call right now,
I can,
but
and actually,
I hate to wait to another.
yeah, I can email you. I'll call as soon as we get out of here and see if there's an update on that.
Are there any, this might seem like a preposterous question, but are there any mobiles anywhere in the district that they can do without for 6 weeks? 8
The
weeks?
problem is any older mobiles that we have would not meet the current code.
Okay.
And OSF would
That's
not
fine.
let us move them.
That's fine, it's just that any option should be at least
Or we can
verbalized.
we could get 6 classes of at Bluffton High School, busing back and forth.
So you would hold May River High School classes at Bluffton High School?
Yep.
I've not thought of that. I don't know
That's
exactly
an
how
option.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how that would work, but
if Bluffton have the rooms available, classrooms available.
Mm-hmm.
Bluffton is full, but Bluffton is like at 85, upper 80%
So
capacity.
they're probably gonna know
Where
classrooms.
May River is,
That's 100%.
So we send the students TDY to Bluffton High, it's just an option.
What's
Okay, I don't
TDY
know if
stand
It's the right one, no, it's listed as temporary duty assignment. Okay? Yeah. Send the TDY to Bluffton High until these mobiles come, if you can't get the standard mobiles.
so I can ask Todd if he has any option of.
I think I prefer you to ask the superintendent,
I agree, Will.
just because of the fact that it's not really about this.
Well, Todd gets down to the minutia of setting up classes and schedules.
Right.
The superintendent's not gonna know class schedules and whatnot.
However, I think that if this is not just an issue for May River.
I can ask the superintendent to
So
lead the
I
discussion.
don't feel
Yes,
comfortable in having
absolutely.
a principal deciding
Yeah.
whether this would take place or not. I
Yeah.
think that the decision makers here have to decide whether or not that's the right option, and then they'll advise the principals to exit.
You know, all they do is put the X's and O's down.
Is that what you were saying?
President of Bluffton, I have to also agree that you want
Yeah.
it.
Okay, if I was a principal, I'd say, hell no, I'm not.
And the superintendent can drive both. Hey, you gotta do it, because this is where we at.
We lost seat time. What's your thought on
Traveling.
Is there a certain route that, certain classes that might work better than others? And I'm asking, I just don't.
Todd probably, that's where Todd don't know
Yeah.
what comes in.
We
Where
can
he-
talk ourselves out of it.
That's when he might focus on those seniors
Yeah.
that already got their credits.
We can come up with enough
Yeah.
objections to talk ourselves out of it before we've actually examined
Yeah.
the idea,
I mean, it's a serious problem. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
which will require serious solutions that they might not have entertained doing 6 months ago.
Yeah, they might start thinking out of the box.
Well, if that's serious, I mean, if it was that serious, then maybe you might entertain redistricting. Because you have students who live right by Mill River who don't go there, and you have students who live right by Bluffton who go to Mill River. So I mean, that's to me that's serious. Because I think that when I look at some of the capacity and I talk to different people, I think that we put those students back in their right schools or by where they go. I think the number that May River over capacity may be less than what we think. It might be a shock.
Have we still got that empty wing at the Kraken?
There is space in the Kraken.
Start thinking in those terms. We got a short-term problem here of housing students and conducting class work until those mobiles arrive, okay? So let's not eliminate any possibility of where we can put them. And it's even in the same cluster, it's just down the road.
You know, start thinking.
In fact, McCracken-
If y'all start thinking, you're gonna find a way not to buy those mobiles.
No, the problem's not going away.
Well,
And they're not gonna wanna be out there.
out of their
The kids might
schools,
enjoy it, it's like a field trip.
moving campus, we call that.
Try to recap where we are. We have a major problem.
Yes.
Could affect multiple, could affect special ed, could affect Bluffton, could affect this. We don't have all the options laid out yet. So that's our next step, to lay them out. We have agreed that the superintendent should be leading, and that's not gonna happen until after July 1st.
Well, I think Dr. Burke can start now. You don't? Well, I mean,
All right, there we go. No comment.
okay.
I don't,
I'm
you've
gonna
got all
add-
these other things to transition, I just.
I was gonna ask Dr. Burke.
Certainly ask him.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out, it seems like we don't have a lot of time, and everything we're talking about takes time. So I'm trying to figure out how we're gonna accelerate. You're gonna make a call, you're gonna let us know, but somebody's gotta do something.
Should we get together back on this before July 4th?
It sure seems like it's time sensitive to me, We have a board meeting before the July 4th.
Yeah.
But I implore, do not discount any option
No, I'm
until it's been examined, okay? And try to think about it in just real terms. We have a housing problem, we gotta house these kids somewhere. And it might not be the best, most enjoyable or convenient place for any of us to have these kids. But we got a place to put them. And whether it's a wing in a school that we don't know, or maybe transition them to Bluffton High for 2 months, it doesn't matter. But think outside the box, just find a place to put them.
Okay. You're gonna develop the options, like a chart or something. So
Well,
we gotta get this in front of the full board. The 25th, we have a meeting, so maybe that would be the right, is that doable? Get the options and touch base with people.
we'll see. We'll check in
Check-
between
check
now.
in and
Yeah,
let us
see
know.
what, where we had options.
Because this just seems like there's an urgency to it that we need to respond to.
We're gonna deal with the manufacturer, that we take the standard ones and still take the specialized ones. And he can take back the standard ones and sell them at a reduced prices, slightly used.
Well, that's the question, is if we can find them, if they're out there, if they're available to be
That's what
purchased.
you're gonna find out. All right. Well, bombshell there. Otherwise innocuous update.
Yeah, the rest of it, everything else is on schedule and doing fine, but that's a big one.
The next item on here is the facilities use follow-up. I told everybody I would follow up on it. There was a question from a board member to legal counsel. It was answered. There's nothing more for us to do. Unless the board wants us to look into something. I can give you some background though. There was a question about whether to have political meetings because the county said you can't use their facilities for political meetings. You have to be a 501 or some nonprofit in order to use their facilities, and it can't be political, which is redundant. You can't be both of those anyhow. They are rethinking that. Apparently that excludes a lot of people they didn't want to exclude.
That's the tough thing.
Yeah, they just wanted to exclude Democrats. They got pissed off because Elizabeth Warren came down and used our facility, and then somebody else did too. I was just being really candid on that one, but
Because
county
it would
council
put
is
us in,
rethinking that.
it would put us in a tough situation to say if a local mayor wanted to use it, so
That's
all of a
right.
sudden we'd have to tell
Or
them
we
no.
wanted to use it.
Huh? Or if y'all even want to use it,
We're
yeah.
elected,
Yeah.
but we're not partisan.
Right.
So, that's the background. I don't think there's an issue for us to do anything with.
Okay.
And Wendy said she didn't either.
I'm
She
completely
researched,
fine with that.
she researched the county ordinances. There really is none. It was just a proclamation kind of thing. And got back to Ms. Orshak on it, and Ms. Orshak hasn't pursued it any further. So, I don't think there's anything for us to do, but I wanted to let you know I did follow up on it. So there's nothing there for us. Future topics. I have one before we do anything. And that is a new law mandates revisions by August 1st on tobacco ARs. So that's a future topic. At our next meeting, we're gonna have to look at the AR for tobacco use
As in where?
on district property.
Yeah.
It's probably having to do with the jewels, the e-cigarettes,
Oh, yeah, the vapor.
and the
The vapor
vapes,
active.
probably. Yeah, I'm sure that's probably what it's called.
There's
This is a
there's
smoke-free.
and so Wendy said we got a new AR, so we gotta review that. What else do we have?
I do have something on. I definitely want to. I think we need to have a second meeting a month. We've been dealing with HR. We've been dealing with HR. So that's something I want to bring to the table.
Focused on AR.
Yeah, focus on HR.
agree with you on that, because it's unfair to put Robert in that.
Alice said that she knows that, HR things to come, and so when she has items, that she knows that she would bring them. But most of her HR items are,
Done for the year.
well, no, not that, but they're executive session items that go through the full board. But the other things that she has that are HR, she knows, because when we do agendas and things to ask, I do ask her if they're for anything. That's how we know to get FOIA and stuff on. So when her PEs are due, they definitely would be coming here, and those are usually due in the fall.
I think that there are policies and procedures that's going on with HR that I think that we look at, so I wanna put it in motion that we have a second meeting a month dealing with HR, because we do a lot with him, and he has serious issues, but I think we need to have a separate meeting for HR month. John, would you
So
second
having
that?
2 meetings in month for
I didn't
operations?
hear a word you said.
I said, based off that, we did a lot with Robert, and I know that there were concerns about us not handling HR. I'm making a motion that we have a second meeting dealing with HR, a month that we have a second meeting dealing with the issues from HR.
I would, at first blush, I'd be in favor of that, but I want to hear from Alice what her take on the scope of the work is.
No, we're asking HR questions, and there are questionings there are things that we need to address in HR. But with us dealing with him, with majority of this time, then we need to deal with him. But there are things that we need to be dealing with HR. So we won't be able to fit both of them in here. So therefore, I'm asking for a separate meeting with HR. And that's not a question of my opinion is of us asking Alice, because we're requesting information from her. She would know what we're asking if she won't know where there's a need for the meeting if she don't know what we're asking.
Could I suggest, instead of standardizing a formal HR thing, why don't we hold a meeting with Alice and go over what your questions are and plan for the future a little bit. Use that word again, plan. And then we can see what we need in terms of.
That would be my suggestion. How about a pilot, so to speak?
Okay.
We'll schedule one meeting with her and work it out.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
That works.
When do we want to schedule that?
Your next scheduled meeting would be July 10th.
So you want one before that?
That'd be fine.
Take care now.
Hit it out.
Be safe.
Thank you, yeah. Rough ride last night.
I know, that's-
So how did you make it last night? How did you make it last night?
Oh, boy, it was murder.
I went through that little car. No problems.
The drive to St. Helena was nice.
Yeah, well, I have no problem. I don't know what they're talking about.
Thank you.
The one before was involved.
Yeah.
It was coming
So are you all
down
trying to meet the last
hard.
week in June? I'm trying to.
Yeah, I'm guessing. Let's see, the last week in June. 24th, I'm picking the article from summer camp.
You have a board meeting on the 25th. Academics is meeting on the 26th.
When's the academic meeting?
On the 26th,
Of June? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
The
good.
27th, that's the dinner. 28th would be the only day.
and they're closed on Fridays. So
Wow, yes, you have something on 27th?
Yeah, there's a dinner.
and you also have the results committees meeting earlier than that.
Yeah,
Your
I got the
meeting,
results committee before that.
that's like at 1:30 or 2:30.
Well, how about the 24th?
Good policy meeting.
Yeah, later in the afternoon.
At
I gotta
5:30
pick my
college.
son up from Burnt Gin, which is in Sumter.
Uh-huh.
Pick him up at 9, it's like a 3-hour drive.
Okay, that's on the 24th?
Yeah, well, as long as we make it later in the afternoon.
You have policy
Like
at
4:30.
5:30.
That's your policy meeting.
Oh, that's
Policy at
okay.
5:30 on the 24th.
Or unless we wanna take it out there too, or unless you just wanna maybe,
Or if you wanna bring her in on the 10th, and just have a section of it to talk about each
No, we
article.
want to do two separate things. Two separate.
All right, so if we can't do the last week of June. How about the first week in July?
You can do it July 2nd because your board meeting, you only have one board meeting currently scheduled right now in July, which is July 9th.
Currently, yeah.
I preference that.
Well,
Thanks now.
are mornings out of consideration?
Huh?
Are you available in the morning?
I don't know. I could possibly work it in there.
I know
You off on
Robert's
July
available in the
2nd?
morning.
I am.
We're talking about July 2nd. Is everybody talking about July 2nd?
I would almost prefer, there's a board meeting on the second, cause I don't have it on my calendar right now.
No, the board meeting is
Right.
July 9th.
Right, that week, I don't have anything in our, you said we have our next meeting is on the 10th?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's thunder.
Is that somebody rolling a cart?
No, that was thunder.
How about the 8th?
Clock's ticking.
I'll put on the 8th. That's fine with me if that's better for you.
Yeah.
The
July
8th is
8th?
better than the 2nd?
Yeah,
What
well,
about July 1st?
no, July
Monday?
1st, that's not a good day for me at all.
So the 8th is better than the 2nd?
Yes, sir.
8th?
That's for Alice?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
All right, so 8th, and you make
At
it 4:30, the end of her day.
Yep. And when are we getting together again on this
July
little
10th.
issue?
Well, as soon as she gets the answers, we'll have to figure out.
Okay.
Because we want to report to the board, I'd say, on the 25th.
So are you still keeping your July 10th meeting?
You know,
So you're meeting the 8th and the 10th?
Yeah.
Today's the 12th, right?
Right.
May I suggest that you publish a heads up to the board well before the 25th? Just say that an important issue, you know what to say.
Yeah, well, as soon as we get some more information, we can give them something to chew on. Because, yeah, I just feel a sense of urgency, I'm sure you do.
Well, we can always go back and rezone.
The future.
What do you think about rezoning? You think that's an option?
Yeah.
So the future options of, so one of the things you wanna do on there is,
Future topics I have is tobacco AR.
one of the other, start times, I mean, your program, everybody's schedule for start times.
Everybody's gonna come in next time with their process.
Another one, I don't know exactly, and I thought it may be the ad hoc committee, but clear bag policy for athletics. Where does that,
Never heard of that.
clear bag policy?
Is that a real policy that we have right now?
No, that's what the ADs want to have. And so, I don't know exactly, I've been
Ask
asked,
for parents?
so, yes, sporting events.
I won't support that.
So,
It's not.
so Wendy talked about,
My take on that is an AR.
yeah, so I
I don't
talked to
think that's a
Wendy,
board level.
I talked to Wendy about having it come to your policy committee. Is that where it goes, or where does that go?
That's an AR that goes to the
Superintendent.
superintendent.
Oh, just at a staff level?
Yeah.
And then they bring the ARs to the committee after the staff has developed their ARs. It's an administrative rule. And then they bring it to the committee.
What
as a-
committee, the policy committee, or what committee?
It would, the policy would be this one.
'Cause that's like a student services item, or it's athletics.
And then want the parents and everyone to come to the game to bring clear bags.
Yeah, it's pretty standard in any college game, a
Whatever,
lot of high
whatever,
schools.
Whatever,
No, I mean,
yeah.
yes.
I
We don't
don't-
wanna hack it out right
Nah,
now.
I mean, I'm just shocked by it. I mean, like,
Right.
are they really
Hey,
sure? I
if you
mean, like,
work at Walmart, you gotta do that too.
yeah, but that's people who work there, but not the people who come to the game. Because if I'm bringing my baby bag in, like, you gonna tell me I have to bring a clear bag? That could be a potential, that's room for a whole lot of lawsuits.
Well,
Actually,
that's
it's-
why why they
Let's have that
want it.
discussion.
I was gonna say, it actually goes pretty well, just everybody gets upset if they don't know and they bring a regular bag.
You got anything else?
Nope,
Oh, shit. You can email. You can email.
yeah, as of right now, I can't think of anything.
All right, so, we're adjourned.